Welcome back to the Next Human Lab podcast. I'm Simon. There's a moment in every relationship that people don't usually prepare for. Not the beginning, not the easy conversations, but the moment when something doesn't align, a difference in expectation, a misunderstanding, a reaction that feels off.
I think it's because conflict feels risky. Not just uncomfortable, but risky. Like something could break. The connection could weaken. The relationship could change. So instead of dealing with it, people either avoid it or react too quickly. And both ways don't really solve anything.
Exactly. And that's what we're exploring today. Because conflict is not the problem. How we handle it is. And when you learn to handle it well, conflict doesn't break relationships. It strengthens them. If you look at where we are now in this series, this episode connects everything. We've explored understanding, communication, balance, boundaries, emotional safety, patterns, and now all of that meets in one place: conflict.
Because conflict is where everything gets tested, not in theory, but in real time.
Exactly. It's where your awareness, your emotional control, your communication all come into play at once. Let's start with a reframe. Conflict is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that two people are different.
Different in perspectives?
Yes. Different expectations, different needs, different ways of seeing things. And when those differences surface, conflict happens. Not because someone is wrong, but because something is not aligned. Here's what usually happens. When tension appears, people shift into defense mode.
Trying to protect themselves?
Exactly. They justify, explain, argue, prove their point. And in doing so, they stop listening because the focus shifts from understanding to being right. And that's where conflict escalates. Let's make this real. Someone says, "I felt like you didn't consider me." And the response is, "That's not true. I did." Now what happens? The conversation shifts from understanding a feeling to defending an action. And both people feel unheard. Another layer, emotion. When conflict begins, emotions rise. And when emotions rise, clarity drops.
So people start reacting instead of responding?
Exactly. Tone changes. Words become sharper. Assumptions increase. And suddenly, the conflict is no longer about the original issue. It becomes about the reaction itself. Now, let's look at the other side. Avoidance. Some people don't escalate conflict. They avoid it entirely.
Trying to keep things peaceful?
Yes. But here's the problem. Avoidance doesn't remove the issue. It delays it. And over time, unspoken tension builds until it shows up in other ways. Distance, frustration, disconnection. And if you've experienced either side of this, reacting too quickly or avoiding things entirely, you're not alone. Most people were never taught how to navigate conflict in a healthy way. If this episode is helping you see conflict differently, take a moment to like the video. It helps these conversations reach more people who might still think conflict is something to fear instead of something to understand. And to those of you who've been consistently supporting this channel, thank you. You're part of making this space meaningful. Here's the shift that changes everything. In healthy conflict, the goal is not to win, it's to understand.
Even if you still disagree?
Especially then, because understanding doesn't require agreement. It requires openness. And when both people feel understood, something changes. The tension reduces. And the conversation becomes constructive. There's also something deeper happening. Conflict reveals how safe the relationship really is. Because when tension appears, people show how they handle discomfort, how they treat each other under pressure, how willing they are to stay present. And that reveals the true quality of the connection. Let's get practical. Exercise 1. Pause before responding. When conflict begins, pause. Not to avoid, but to prevent reaction. Exercise 2. Reflect what you hear. Say, "So what you're feeling is." This creates understanding. Exercise 3. Stay with the issue. Don't bring in past situations. Focus on what's happening now. So today, conflict is not something to avoid. it's something to learn from. Here's something to reflect on. When conflict appears, do I try to understand or to protect myself? In the next episode, we're going deeper into something essential: the difference between surface interaction and deep connection.
I think what stayed with me is realizing that conflict doesn't have to damage relationships.
Yeah, and when handled well, it can actually make them stronger. We'll see you in the next episode.